What is up guys, Wraec is here with a new video, and today we're going to take a look at Mehira. Mehira is the new Hypergen hero. We already saw her in the preview and now she is on the Pioneer server and I've been testing her since yesterday. Definitely a very interesting hero. Nonetheless, I want to point out that this is a testing server, so you might just get another version of this hero, maybe with a buff, maybe with a nerf. We're going to talk about it in a second before she hits global. So definitely don't make any hasty decisions based on this video. I would just recommend you save up your stellar crystals, you wait for a release, and then you come to a decision. That is the best way to do it. For now, let's talk about her abilities. What is it? What do we have right here? What stood out to me in my testing? Well, first of all, Mehira is really playing with the Charm CC. The Charm CC says one of the normal states, charmed units attack their own allies. And from my testing, this means normal attacks. It doesn't really say that here. We had the comparison before on Satrana. On Satrana, it specifically says making them only use normal attacks while charmed. In the charm description, it really doesn't say that, and I was theorizing that maybe it could be used to do some ultimate skills. It really doesn't seem to do that. There really seem to be some normal attacks, and they stop doing even most of their passive skills during the time they are charmed. So that in itself is, by the way, something good. If we take a look at a PvP match, we can really spot some of her abilities. Starting off, she will summon an illusion on the enemy side, and all enemies that aren't unaffected or something or invincible, for example, will run towards that illusion. And she has this ability to do that every 15 seconds after. And this is kind of her strongest ability, really. The illusion at the start of the battle is something that I have experienced really to be her strongest side. But what does that really do? So on the one end, the enemies are charmed. That much is clear. That is what we already said. They will try to attack their allies. On the other hand, being charmed means they will not use most passive skills that they have. This doesn't include all of the passive skills, but some very prominent examples are visible. That are very visible in that sense. Zandrok. If we try to go with a Perseus team, which we have right here. I'm not using Mehira on this, the enemy is though. You will see that the Zandrok ability, which is this wall of, not even sure what it is, moving forward and buffing all of your heroes, is appearing a lot later than we are used to. And that is because during the time that he's charmed by Mehira, he will not start that ability. Also take note that the Phantomal will start their ability, the Snowstorm in that case, but then also be charmed and move towards this illusion. So we start the battle, the heroes that are unaffected because of the artifact ignore it, the other ones move over there, and only now, 7 seconds into the fight, we get the Zandrok buff, which is very strong actually, because that means Zandrok is a lot worse against such teams than he used to be, because he just doesn't give us his buff fast enough. You can of course counter it in a way. If we give Zandrok unaffected by any means, he will just do his ability normally, and you can see way earlier this appears. You have to see how that works out really over time. There are multiple abilities where this works in this similar way, where the hero basically is first charmed, doesn't use his ability, and then later on even needs a little bit of time to recover seemingly before starting his passive skill. Another example for that would be Bonnie. Bonnie won't put her damage over time on the enemy until the charm wears off, which is an interesting way to kind of counter the popular seismic spell Bonnie team, which we still have to take a look at, but this is a rather interesting side of this charm. And charm in general, we can kind of say is a very interesting thing. So how does this illusion work in itself? Well, she starts the illusion and she will summon an illusion of herself on the tile closest to the enemy lineup. And this will bewitch all enemies. It says all enemies, not the enemies that are like in the area of this illusion. It says all enemies, and they will run towards it. What are the exclusions from this? Well, unaffected, allies or unaffected enemies won't do it. Unaffected is very, very easy to obtain. You can, for example, use the seasonal artifacts for this, where we have the Divine Favor spell, making the two rearmost allies unaffected, or even outside of the season, if you are in the arena, a lightning spell will work against it. So those are very, very easy ways to do it. Ravion works decently fine. It isn't perfect, because there is a little bit of a delay. We can kind of show it. So same as before, I just switched over from our Divine Favor spell to Blood Moon spell, which doesn't grant us unaffected. We can still get unaffected by the Supreme Plus of our of Ravion, and he will activate that. So interestingly enough, this will still work. He will still give the quests to Perseus and Zendrok, and you can just, even when we start the battle, see a little bit of a move towards the illusion before the quest really triggers, giving us unaffected and resulting in them moving forward. So there it is. They first start moving towards the illusion and then move over. But it's just such a small amount of time, really, that you really barely notice it. The other thing is this does only last for 2 seconds. So it's not really super long. For some passive skills, it ends up resulting in them being triggered way later. Zendrok was a particularly negative example. Bonnie, for example, will trigger passive skills almost at the same time the illusion ends. It will instantly be on the enemy, and you will notice that. So that is kind of a big difference here. This, in my opinion, is really hard to differentiate if we just exit the illusion because it ran out, or during the time. I would say this is still on the side that it was the unaffected of Ravion, because you can see the other heroes still running towards it if we skip that here. By the way, Perseus, absolute monster in PvP. If we watch the replay again, you can see that Phantomil is still running towards it. Perseus already running away because we became unaffected. And this can happen in many situations. So this is one way to do it. And I would say you kind of have to work yourself through the game and check which passives are really negatively affected as much, because we see the clear differentiation between like Zendrok, and I explained that for Bonnie this isn't the case. So there's different impact on the passive skills depending on the animations that are triggered in the meantime. It's kind of a weird thing to go by. What is with the rest of her? So we spent a lot of time, 7 minutes now, on this one ability. What is with the rest? Really, her ult struggles. I tried to make that work. I tried to get a good gameplay for you guys. We saw the best gameplay at the beginning. And it's sad. Let's go into it again. We have the half speed. So I tried to just go for her ult. We get the illusion, we get everything. We block off an enemy Perseus here, by the way, with the Brutus tactic. It takes a while. It takes a rather long time for her to get to her ult because she doesn't really have initial energy. Then when she gets to her ult, there is a little bit of a problem, in my opinion, really, with the targeting. Could be a little bit better. And then, yeah, you really don't notice it in this scenario here, which is a little bit bad. And you often really don't notice it. It doesn't really do a ton of damage. We have to say that. It doesn't really do a ton of damage. It's not like a Kulu ult where you see the enemy HP bars go away. It has a rather long-winded animation and ends up just also not doing a whole lot of damage. That being said, I don't think she has to deal a ton of damage. Like, of course, it's nice. If we take a Kulu, for example, and we have an insane damage dealer and some buffs on top of that, that's really cool. But I think for a CC hero, I mean, was Iron a bad hero because he really didn't do too much damage? By no means, really. You want to have the CC, and that's the thing. On the other hand, I would argue that some abilities could have a little bit more impact. You kind of would want her ult to have a little bit more impact. You kind of would want it to have a little bit more of a specific targeting, striking all enemies within 2 tiles. Usually that is what saves it. It is really saved by having this huge radius, because 2 tiles is huge. That is a huge radius. It has a cool animation, by the way, as well, which we can watch really quickly. I would be criminal to not show it to you. But other than that, like, really, you barely notice it. I barely noticed the charm coming from it. So from the CC ult, I barely noticed the CC, which is kind of sad in that sense. So for me, it really wasn't a selling point to her. When I used her, I really went for the Alluring Mirage. That was one of the main things where I said, okay, that is really something. Against some teams, particularly Perseus teams, when you knock out the Zendrok, it can be really, really effective. And then she was close to being great in some fights. Like this Blissful Whip, honestly, isn't really a bad ability at all. Let's throw out all units, friends or foe, in 3-tile frontal arc 5 times. It doesn't do a ton of damage. It gives your allies HP, and she has enough life drain and healing to make this work as giving her a decent amount of HP back. And I was almost like, oh, do we have like a Cider situation where she can tank out the enemy? And then she got hit by like Natalia and was instantly nuked. She's kind of lacking this bit of damage reduction that like a Cider has. Cider has this very, very good hero focus that gives her a ton of damage reduction. I don't have it activated here on Pioneer. You have to re-equip the hero focus every time. It's absolutely horrible. Maybe we should re-equip it. Which gives you a ton of damage reduction and makes her really, really tanky. And I feel like if Mehira had that, that would be really good. That would be really good if she had that. And I would happily replace her hero focus with that of Cider any single day, maybe getting rid of the drain seeds and then having her have damage reduction for every companion that she has, because that is really her Mythic Plus ability, and her Mythic Plus is not too bad. I thought we could maybe scale that at the point, but I would be surprised if anybody not knowing her abilities noticed that she has this ability. When a battle starts, summon 3 familiars around her, and those familiars attack the enemy. They do attack the enemy, they deal a pretty low amount of damage, and the main part that you really want her is, takes a hit that reduces her HP below 10%, she sacrifices a familiar to block that damage, she then becomes untargetable for 2.5 seconds, instantly recovers 10% of her max HP. So, I heard a lot of people say this doesn't work, and that she gets one-shot. I have yet to see her get one-shot by that. The thing that most likely happens is that you don't even notice that this ability got activated. We can just watch this fight as an example. So what really happens is she just becomes like semi-see-through once this ability triggers. The enemies won't target her. They will then, of course, target somebody else for the time being, but instantly retarget her once they get the opportunity to do so. And usually when that happens, when the enemies retarget her, she's pretty much dead in a second. So that is usually kind of horrible. Here we had another one of her ults, getting hit by Athalia there. And now she's see-through. Now this ability is actually active. You could see it there, and then now she's targetable again. Yeah, that was it. So, is it a bad ability? By no means. It's pretty good, actually. We get like a decent amount of survivability with it. We have like a free revive, and it's interesting that they tend to like give that to the heroes now. Like we had this on Eliseth as well, providing that now she has a free revive. Is it in any means something where you can drag a fight out with? I don't really think so necessarily, but you could see what I meant here by she has like a decent amount of recovery. You sometimes feel like this is the case where she does that. We have a see-through again there. So it is not bad in my opinion. As long as she has like the companions, it's pretty good. She can get like a ton of companions if you have enough heal. But it never feels like she has that. I still feel like she gets hit into it, and she's dead pretty quickly anyway. I almost never feel like she has like 6 of those, because she can start off with 3, so she can activate that 3 times. And you never have the feeling that she actually does that 3 times, because she's often dead rather quickly. If that was the case, like if she was like reliably activating it, or if we had some way to give her damage reduction, I think she could be fairly tanky and be a good hero even in PvP alongside something like Cider dragging out fights. You can combine that then with Athalia and have a ton of damage on the board. I think that could be pretty good. But right now, it really doesn't feel like she gets all that many revives. Maybe we need just a healer to make that happen, because she has this last ability here. Mehira stores any excess healing she receives, and each time she stored amount reaches 50% of her initial max HP, she summons 1 extra familiar up to 3 per battle. I think you would need like a very strong healer on the battle. I think Ludovic just wasn't enough. And then you kind of run out of options, I feel like. You have Gerla. It's not really the best healer. Hewen is a little bit slow. Right now, I feel like she lacks a good healer to really make use of this. Then she could be a bit more powerful, because if you think about it, 6 times this ability is just like 15 seconds of being completely untargetable. So that's fairly cool. That's really fairly cool. And one thing to note is though, yeah, she's untargetable. She's not invincible, right? So you can still kill her with something like a Siren ult, which is sad. Increase the damage taken by enemy Sharp with Mehira's or Wraec Rush or Bewitched by her Alluring Mirage by 15%. It's not bad. Very good ability on her Supreme Plus. So, now that we've talked about all of this, what do I think? Well, right now, I said like in PvP there wasn't really any team that I saw where I really thought, well, Mehira really changed the game. Where somebody built a team, you know, like last time, where we tested Perseus. And there was the Perseus team with Ravion and Zandrock, and it was like, bam! It was hitting hard, it was insane, it was really, really good. I don't really have that feeling with Mehira. I feel like if she was released today in the state, the only thing that I could say was, if you're a whale, probably she's a nice toolkit. You might want to use her in some of your teams. Probably we will want to put her in a Supreme Arena team somehow. She will be very effective once you really get to know her and which heroes she blocks best. And when you put her in Supreme Arena where the enemy can't really play around that, you can't use Dunlinger against her. That is something to add maybe. You can't use Dunlinger to block her illusion because her illusion is a passive skill, not an ultimate skill. So in that sense, she's very, very good offensively if you want to use her against a team that is unprepared for it and doesn't have an unaffected artifact stacked up on top of a Ravion or something. Then she will work very, very well, probably. But for free-to-play, doesn't matter. For low spender, that's not really the hero you're going for. That is a PvP niche hero in that sense. And then you go for AFK stages, and that was the other thing. And maybe, yeah, there is something somewhere where you can use her. But I always felt like if you can CC it, if you can CC a stage, we are already at the point where you don't necessarily need more CC. Because in that situation, you can usually, unless you're fighting a Dunlinger stage, you can usually just use Iron. You're good with it and he's easy to get. And then you combine that and go with the newest meta hero, well, with the meta hero that has established herself now in AFK stages a lot, which is Cider. And you go with that, and you're probably better off with it. So that is what my thought about it was. Is she really good? No. I don't think she really is good. I think she's decent. Yeah. But I was asked by somebody if they should summon Eliseth or Mehira. I was like, so many heroes before I get to that point. I would want to have Dunlinger, I would want to have Cider, I would maybe want to have Cryonaya. Kulu would be insane. We have Athalia, we have Belrin, who is also insane. I would even maybe consider Skalita. Because Skalita with her S+ possibility is really cool, and for a second I was thinking about Talene for just a revive potential on the board. I was like, okay, maybe not Talene, but for the rest, maybe Talene for the skin, because skin pretty cool. But yeah, so that is my result now. Right now, we'll obviously test her again when she's on the global server. We are going to do a Nazarick test next, who's by far more interesting, I think. Sadly, really, I have to say. For me, personally, in my mind, I'm planning for a Supreme Plus summon for her. I'm probably not going to spend Stellar Crystal unless they buff her. So that's the sadness of it. Even though this ability, really, really good, the illusion. Have to say it. And we ended with the only way that you can end this, with shout out to LD Shop for the cheapest dragon crystals that you can get. I can only recommend this, well, I can't recommend this enough really, because you get the cheapest dragon crystals here. And if you register an account through the link in the description, you get a 15% and a 5% discount coupon. And if you want to keep supporting my channel and you continue buying at LD Shop, which I'm pretty sure you will be, because, well, all the people I've talked to are very happy with service right here, then please make sure you click the link every time before you purchase something. Otherwise, well, it doesn't count as a support for me, sadly. So that being said, definitely shout out to LD Shop for making this possible. Other than that, it wouldn't be right to enter Mehira video without watching that ult animation one more time. So, with that, I hope this video doesn't get demonetized. I wish you a great day, and we'll see us in the next one.